beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Tonight's video, I just wanted to kind of sit down and have a little chat. So I wanted to go through the decks that I'm going to be really focusing on in the winter time. So this is the darker part of the year, and I do have a big old pile of decks here that I want to work with in the winter. But I'm also working on doing a depth year next year. And so next year is really going to be about diving deep and focusing on what I already have and learning and doing all of these things instead of buying all the time. And I want to get into my depth year plans at the end of this video as well. But yeah, this is just like a little chat. I want to talk about the decks I'm really focusing on this darker part of the year. And yeah, so some of these decks might make their way into, you know, like spring and summer as well, just because some of these are just my favorite decks in general. So, you know, they're like all year round for me. But these are the ones that I really want to focus on, or like I have been focusing on already. So we're going to start with tarot because I have less tarot decks to focus on for the dark parts of the year. I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decks that I really want to focus on for the winter time. And I do have one more kind of like little deck haul that's coming in tomorrow, and that'll be kind of the last big purchase I make for decks, hopefully this year, and next year as well, because I'm doing my depth year and I've already said that. So the first deck I want to talk about is a Druid Craft. This is a soul deck of mine. I've heavily modified it, and I might buy a new copy and like do it correctly, since I know how to correctly modify decks now. But for now, this little weathered deck is one of my favorites. It's so witchy, and it does feel very like, I mean, you can use this any time of year, but something about working with it in like the winter time just works very well. I don't know, it just feels very focused on seasons and like the wheel of the year and things like that. So it works, you know, for any season, just because it feels like so witchy and magical. But yeah, I absolutely love this deck. It reads very well for me, very easily. It's really helped me grasp tarot in a different way. And so yeah, I absolutely love this deck, and it's definitely one of the ones I'll be focusing on. The guidebook for this thing is huge and meaty, and I haven't really read the guidebook for this one yet, and so it's one of my goals in early 2022 to really like dive deep into this guidebook and spend some time with it. Next up, I have the newest tarot deck in my collection, which is the Runic Tarot. And this deck, like from the moment I got it in the mail, I just couldn't get it out of my hands. Like, I love it. I edged the sides in black, and I think it looks really nice. These are the backs. They just have like runic symbols on them. And yeah, you'll see in my depth year that learning runes isn't really part of my main goals, and that doesn't mean that I won't focus on runes, but this deck kind of helps me in that way. Like, I don't have to deep dive into runes. Just having this deck kind of helps me learn without, you know, like trying to focus all of my time on learning runes. But that's definitely something that I want to learn, and runes and astrology are something that I didn't put into my depth year to learn, but both of them have been something I've kind of learned organically, like along the way. Like, I have my runes, I like to use them in readings, and just kind of like looking up the meanings as I use them has really worked for me. And then astrology is something I'm kind of learning along the way as well. But anyway, this deck is it has very dark imagery, as you can see, so it feels very wintry. Oh my god, I love this deck. Like, It reads so well for me so far. I'm still learning with it because some of the cards aren't traditional. I mean, it follows it closely enough, but you can just get so much. I love this full card. You can just get so much out of the imagery that you don't really need, like if it doesn't match up with your traditional meanings, you can still get like a full story out of these images, which I love. It's magical. I've had my eye on this deck from the moment I knew it was coming out, and I absolutely love it, and I'm looking forward to working with this more in the darker part of the year. Next, I have the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot. It's really just been a delight to connect so deeply with this Rider-Waite-Smith kind of clone deck. I love the imagery in here, and I thought I didn't connect with Rider-Waite for some reason, but the coloring on this is just beautiful, and I've been working with it, and it's very straightforward. I mean, if you want just like straightforward answers, this is the way to go. And so I'm very excited to just really dive deep, the deepest that you can with Rider-Waite, and learn all of the symbolism and all of the everything in it. Like, I'm so excited to do that in my depth year. So yes, I absolutely love this deck. One of the decks that I purchased that's coming tomorrow is the Smith-Waite Borderless Edition. And I'm hoping that the cardstock on that is like more matte, because this is a shiny, and sometimes you just want like a different kind of tactile experience, and the coloring on that one's a little bit different as well. So I might work with that one just as much. I don't know. I really love my Radiant Wise Spirit for now. Next up for tarot, this has been one that I have just been loving for this time. It feels so Christmassy to me. And that is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. I'm going to get it out of this huge box. The guidebook on this is phenomenal. I read all of it. Yeah, this deck, I bought it quite a while ago, and I just didn't really, I was waiting to feel a little bit more comfortable with tarot before I really dove into this, because they've changed like all of the names for the most part. But once I really felt comfortable and I started looking at it, it just immediately reminded me of Christmas. So I put it away, and I got it out recently, and I deep dove into the book, and I was like listening to Christmas music, and it was just all magical as I was reading the book, and I really like dove into this world, and it's just beautiful. And yeah, I thought this deck, I mean, when you look at it, it kind of, you think it has like this gentle energy, but it's very like no nonsense. Like, it really tells you how it is, and I love that. But I just love how you can like dive into this whole other world, and it's very easy to read with if you know Rider-Waite. Like, you know, the meanings follow it very closely as well, even though the imagery is kind of different, but it makes sense as to why. You know, like, this is the 8 of Pentacles, and she's working very hard spinning this gold, you know, so it makes sense. They've changed it. This is the Chariot, you know, for the fairy wind. I absolutely love this deck. It's so magical, and I can't wait to use it when I am in my enchanted forest living up there, because I feel like it'll just bring a whole nother energy to it. But yeah, love this. Definitely like focusing on this as one of the main decks for December, especially just because it does give me that magical Christmassy feeling inside. So yes, love that one. But again, like, any of these could be used, like, I could see myself using this in the spring as like more of like a fae kind of magical energy as well. But yeah. And last but not least for tarot, this is not going to surprise anybody, this is my ultimate soul deck, the Green Witch Tarot. You know, this deck has really changed the way that I learned tarot, the way that I viewed tarot, and it's probably my all-time favorite deck, to be honest. So guidebook's lovely, but I've kind of like attributed my own meanings to the cards because the guidebook can be a little bit like fluffy in a way. But yeah, the backs of these obviously are like so Christmassy. I mean, we have a pentacle and it looks very Christmas inspired. But yeah, this is a great all time of year deck, obviously. I mean, it looks like it can be very like spring energy. But again, it has a very much like wheel of the year. Like it has all of the seasons represented kind of equally. And very witchy, obviously. There's like the Holly King in here, which just feels very like wintry and magical. But then we have the Oak King as well, which is like the other side of that. So you get these very wintry cards, and then yeah, like, I mean, that's straight up Christmas right there, you know. But yeah, so obviously I'm going to be using this. I use this all the time. It's the best deck. Like every time I read with it, it's just right on the money. It's magical. It's my favorite. So yes, that is the Green Witch Tarot. I need to get like a small cute little bag for it because I don't like putting it in this huge box every time. So if anybody knows like a bag that would fit this, like a little crochet bag or a little pouch that would fit this like snugly, let me know. Because I don't like when the pouches are too big and the deck like slides around, I guess. Okay, now we're gonna get into Oracle. I have lots of Oracle decks to play with for the winter time because this is really a time for like shadow work, and so I have a lot of kind of shadow work themed decks and other decks I just wanted to work with. This one is the Earthbound. I've been keeping this little bag. This is newer to my collection. This deck is amazing. Oh my gosh. So again, I haven't had it very long. Only did one reading with it, but this deck is so funny. The energy on it is like, it reads like so obvious. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like I was asking it about my upcoming move and stuff, and I got the travel card, and I was like, yes, I know I'm gonna have to be traveling a lot. And then I was like, okay, well, I just want one more like clarifying card to my whole spread, and I got labor, and I was like, yes, I know I'm gonna have to work really hard because I'd been worrying about how much work there was to do, and it just made me laugh because it was very like accurate. You know, like it just told the truth, and I love that. I mean, the artwork is stunning, and this is such a good little deck to pair with like any reading, just to get like an extra little clarifier or extra little like keyword. And it does feel very wintry with like the wood and the nature. But again, you know, I could work with this any time of year. But yeah, absolutely love this deck. I'll be excited to just add it on to readings as just like a little extra oomph, you know what I mean? Okay, next up I have like a little trio, but we're going to talk about this one first. This is the Illustrated Bestiary Oracle Cards by Maya Toll. I have the Herbarary. I can't talk. It's like a book, and it had an oracle deck in the back that you had to like rip out, and it was just like very thin little papery cardstock, and I love those cards. But when I found out she was coming out with the full-sized ones, I was really excited, and I didn't buy them all at once, even though I was tempted to, but I decided to pick this one for the first one that I bought. She has Bestiary, Herbiary, and Crystallary. So yeah, I wanted to buy this one just because I felt like it really like embodied this like winter energy for some reason. And this cardstock's amazing. Like, I'm blown away. I love these cards. I have 3 animal decks, and I have used this one more than any of them, and I've only had it like a week. These are the wonderful backs. Look at those. And all of the new Oracle decks that have come out, the 3, have the same back, so you can mix them all together if you want. And I'm very excited to be adding those to my collection. I might try to sneak them in there before my depth year starts because, yeah, I feel like they all are meant to be together. But this deck is something else. It doesn't just like focus, I mean it does, it focuses on the animal, but you really get this like intense, meaningful keyword up here. And I've had this next to my bed and I've been pulling a card every night, and this is just right on the money. This deck has been surprising me, and I've been using it with 2 other decks right over here and pairing it, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's such a good combo. I guess, I don't know, I guess a lot of these decks are very naturey, and so you can use them any time of year, but, you know, winter as well. So I think that's why they kind of just feel wintry to me, because they feel like nature and the seasons and all of that. So absolutely love this deck, and I've been pairing it with this, the Wisdom of the Avalon Oracle cards. Now, I want to take a minute to talk about this deck, because holy crap, this has been sitting on my shelf for like a year and I haven't really used it. I used it once when I first got it, and it gave me an amazing reading that was like very accurate looking back. And I just kind of put it away, and I've been using it almost every day, and this deck is so scarily accurate. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I love it. It's older. It's a Colette Baron Reed deck, and I feel like maybe that's why I connect with it more. I really feel like I like her older decks. Wisdom of the Avalon. And the back of these cards are something else. I love this artwork so much. Like, I want this framed on my wall. I might like try to figure out a way to blow this up and make it to where I can put it on my wall, because I love this image. Probably one of my favorite backs of all time. And you have like different categories. So you have like the animal guides of Avalon, you have the guides of fairy, so you have different fairies, you have the sacred journey markers, so they're just kind of like keywords. Is that it? Yeah, the messengers of Avalon. So you have all these different like categories, right? So you have like archetypes, animals, just like keywords. So there's so much in this deck. So we have the messengers, like the Lady of the Lake, the sacred journey markers. So these are just like the keywords: forgiveness, the mystery. Then you have fairies, the water fairy. And these ones, I mean, since they're just a keyword in themselves, they don't have a lot, but like all these other cards have all these extra little words that are just, oh my, I love this deck. I can't talk enough about it, but I've been pulling these two in together, and like the keywords are matching up crazy. This deck, beautiful, amazing. I think it's going to become one of my all-time favorite Oracle decks. That's how amazing it is. And the other deck that I've been pairing with these two is the Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. I've been trying to use this deck as much as I can for this Yule time, because it's very like specific for that. I mean, you can use it for any time of year, but I've found with this one and the Samhain one, I really get the most out of it during those times of year. And the reason this was I pulled a card tonight actually for a little reading for myself, and I pulled the mistletoe card, and it's about like fertility and stuff. And then I pulled a queen, I think it was called the Queen card, out of the Wisdom of the Avalon cards, and it was like about fertility and stuff. And I was like, why do these cards just work so well together? But anyway, these are the backs. It has beautiful green gilding. This is a beautiful deck. I absolutely love this artwork. I'm going to buy some of Giada Rose's artwork for my new house to hang up, because I absolutely love like these witchy figures that she draws. But anyway, this is just like a really Christmassy, wintry kind of deck. And I will be using it all of winter. I won't just kind of contain it into Christmas time, Yule time, because you can definitely use this all winter. You know, it has that very wintry feeling to it. So I'm gonna try to get as much use of it out of it that I can for the winter time, because it's beautiful, it's stunning, and the messages are really cool in this deck. So yeah, that's my little like trio that I've been keeping at my bedside because it's just so good. And I wanted to pull it like every night. I just give myself a little message, you know. Okay, so next I have a lot more. Okay, let's try to blow through these. I have the Magic of You Oracle, which is very like shadow work. And so obviously I wanted this to be in my arsenal for winter because, you know, shadow work, darker time to look inward. And this is a beautiful, gorgeous deck. It looks kind of intimidating, I feel like, when you first see it like online. And the imagery is very intimidating, but the energy is just so gentle. Like, it gives you these dark shadow work kind of messages, but for me it's very gentle in the way it delivers them, and I absolutely love that about it. It's not harsh, which I feel like it's funny because some decks who look like fluffy can have this really like dark energy to them, and then there's decks like this that look scary and they're like not. So yeah, next up I have Moonology, obviously, because I needed my moon deck. Part of my deck fear plans are to work with the moon every full and new moon. And this deck just helps me. I use it at least every full and new moon, and I feel like that's enough because I have so many decks. So using it twice a month is pretty good. Just because it has very straightforward messages. I love this deck. It's very accurate for me. It's beautiful. I haven't felt the need to get the Manifestations deck. I personally don't like the artwork on that one. And it's funny because people have been preferring that one, which is interesting. The backs on that one are beautiful, but like it has more of a collage art kind of feel, and this one just has a different, I don't know, I like the artwork more. And I feel like this deck's good enough for me for like a moon deck. So yeah, probably not going to be getting the Manifestations deck, but next up I have the Wicca Oracle cards. This time of year I just want all the witchiness, and this deck is beautiful because it doesn't have any keywords, but the artwork on it just like, it's so easy to tell kind of what's going on. Like this woman's gazing into this water, like what is she thinking about? You can really like dive into it, you know. And the guidebook has just enough like to tell you what the card name is so that you can kind of get more information, and then like a little blurb, so you get just enough if like you can't go off of your intuition. Like immediately I think of the Ace of Cups when I look at this, and like abundance, overflowing, all of that. Like this is like the Ace of Wands to me. Book of Shadows, I pulled this card so I know. But yeah, I absolutely love this deck. Here's my Yule card. Perfect. Yeah, beautiful witchy deck. I like to use this one, just kind of like stare into the artwork and try to figure out what I think it means. So there's that one. Next up I have Liminal Spirits Oracle. Again, with like just that witchy energy. I definitely want to read this guidebook sometime in the winter. Just like completely read that guidebook because it's beautiful. What I like about certain guidebooks is that when they have these full images, you don't need the cards with you. So you can just like hang out on the couch, chill in bed, read the meanings, and you don't have to carry the whole deck around with you, which I really like. But yeah, these are the backs. Absolutely beautiful deck. This one is very much like you have to read the guidebook to get I think, the full meaning out of the card. But I love that. I love like that you have all these like, the images are beautiful. Like I love to just stare into them, and they just feel very wintry, and the messages go with like any other kind of spread I've been trying to do lately. So beautiful, earthy, magical deck. So that is the Liminal Spirits Oracle. And Laura Tempest Zakroff, the person that did this deck, has another one coming out in 2022, and that is going to take up one of my 12 slots. So there's that. And next up we have the Halloween Oracle, and I know Halloween Samhain time is over, but this deck is just stunning, beautiful for shadow work and for the dark time of the year. I actually trimmed this deck after Halloween because I saw that somebody had done that and they looked gorgeous, and for me, trimming it just like opened it up to not be like so constrained to Halloween for some reason. I absolutely love this deck. The images are beautiful, and like some of them are kind of Halloween-y. Like we have like a jack-o'-lantern and trick or treat and stuff like that in here. Yeah. So, you know, it does have that Halloween feel, but it also works really well for just like a shadow work deck in general. And I've been pulling this with some spreads lately, and it's just been working really well, even though it's not Halloween time anymore. But yeah, I'm probably going to just restrict this to the darker time of the year because, I don't know, I like my decks to be kind of like seasonal sometimes. I mean, there are very versatile ones, but like for the Yule deck and the Samhain deck, I kind of want to keep that in like their half or their part of the year. Next up, we have the Heal Yourself reading cards by Ina Segal. Again, this is another shadow work deck, and the whole thing came out. And this is one, like, you don't need to pull this one out a lot. Like, I've already kind of done my spread on it with it, and it was very accurate. That's one thing, is this deck's very accurate. But it has very... it has hard messages, but again, like, I just like the way that it delivers them, especially in the guidebook. It's really gentle. But again, this deck's like right on the money. Like, if it'll call you out for what you need to work on. And so, yeah. If I feel like I need to use it again for myself, I can, but I feel like this is going to be more for like readings on the channel that'll bring this out. Because I've kind of like delved deep with it already for myself. But yes, that is the Heal Yourself reading cards by Ina Segal, which I absolutely love. Okay guys, we're getting there, and then we're going to talk about my deck here. So Cheryl Yambrak Rose has become one of my favorite deck artists, deck makers, whatever you want to say, lately. I'm on the hunt for the Through the Starstream Oracle. So if you guys know where I can find that, please let me know, because I am dying for that deck. I know it's out of print, but like, if you guys know where I can get a good deal for it, let me know. This is a reprint of one of her older decks, I believe, and they've redone it. And I also have Transcendent Journeys, but this one for me is just amazing. I mean, look at these cards. They're like magical paintings. And I really like the messages on this one a lot more compared to her other deck that I have. This one just seems more earthy and like down to earth. Her other one's very spacey, which is great, but this one's just my favorite, and it feels very dark and wintry, and I've loved pulling it with spreads as just like an added message. It feels very like specific in its own messages. It doesn't always relate to like the spread, but it gives you this other extra thing to think about. But this deck is like stunning. If you just want to sit there and look at the messages and get lost, oh my gosh. And I've recently, you guys haven't seen, but I've colored my hair like this color, and so it just feels magical because like this is what I want to look like, and I do now. And yeah, it just feels really cool. So stunning deck. You don't get a lot out of the guidebook, but you don't really need it because you get a lot out of the images. So Through the Eyes of the Soul, beautiful. Okay, last but not least, I wanted a fairy deck for the winter time, and I picked the Fairy Forest. And this was in my Hearth and Home tag because I absolutely love this deck, and I actually recently trimmed it. That's why it looks so small. I went on a trimming like craze with all of my like big bordered Blue Angel decks, and I think it's opened them up to be more usable for me. But a lot of my fairy decks feel very spring and summer, but this one feels more wintry to me. And this is one I pull out when I really need like a healing, in-depth message, because Lucy Cavendish really like, she goes all in the guidebook. Like she writes a big old explanation. So yeah, I absolutely love the artwork on this. It does feel very like wintry, and it's beautiful. But I just feel like I resonate with the messages so much. So I don't pull this one out a lot. It feels very like sacred to me in a way. And so I don't think this is one I'll like study or really like spend a lot of time with the cards. I just want to like pull it out when I need a specific message, and it always comes through for me. So yeah, that is the Fairy Forest by Lucy Cavendish. So that is the last of the cards that I'll be really diving deep with for the winter. And like I said, I do have more decks coming. I have 5 more decks coming, and I feel like some of those might fit into my winter time decks as well. So I'll do updates on that. We're going to talk about that now with my depth year plans. Do you guys like my notebook? I designed it. I don't know if I should put this one up in the shop. I very much like that. I just kind of made it for me with like very specific to me. But I don't know. If you guys are interested, let me know. So, okay, I wrote down my depth year ideas here. So, let's go through them. So, number 1, pick specific decks to work with each month. Deep dive videos. So by that, I mean, each month I really want to pick specific decks I'm really going to dive deep with. Now, I have I just showed you guys like so many decks that I want to work with in the winter, but obviously not all of them are going to be used in depth. So I don't know. I might do like a wrap up at the end of each month, I'm thinking. Or like one at the beginning and one at the end. So like I can start at the beginning of the month and make a video that's like, these are the decks that I really want to dive deep with this month. And then at the end of the month, I can do kind of like a wrap up, what I really used, what I learned, and see like how much variance there is, and see how much I really was able to accomplish in that way. So I really want to do that so that I can really like, I want to get through and feel really connected and like close to all of the decks in my collection. So yeah. And then I have some things to study. So I have study palmistry. From the beginning of my witchy journey, I've wanted to learn palmistry so bad, and it's just kind of like been put to the side because tarot was like my number 1 thing to learn. And now that I feel like I have a grasp on tarot, and each month when I work with my decks, I'll just kind of like enhance that. Like I feel like my tarot learning is now kind of like a working learning thing where I'm working each month with the decks, and so I learn on the way. But palmistry is something I really want to deep dive into next year. So I have a few books. I'm really gonna like read those back to back. I have a palmistry deck that I really want to study. and then, you know, like just watch videos and stuff and just feel like I have like kind of a somewhat of a grasp of it, the same way I do feel like with tarot now, by the end of next year. And then along with that, I have studied Lenormand. So Lenormand, I don't know why, but it's just really been intriguing me lately, and so I've been really wanting to study Lenormand and like cartomancy. It feels very like old school to me. And yeah, I'm into Lenormand and cartomancy, like reading with playing cards, and I feel like those two kind of go hand in hand in a way. So again, I just kind of want to have like a working knowledge of Lenormand and cartomancy, reading with playing cards. I really want to study those this year. And I will have way more time to do this stuff because I've already gone part-time at my job. We are moving by the end of the month. We have to be out of this house and we are moving into our new house in the forest, and it's actually an hour away from my job, so I'll have to drive an hour there and an hour back each day. And so I've gone down to part-time where I only work 3 days a week. So the other 4 days I have off in a row. And so I really have time to like live this life that I want. I want this like slower lifestyle where I'm really studying, I'm really learning. And it's not all about like the money, right? It's more about just like living my life, being happy, being out in nature. And so that's why I really want to focus on my depth year next year. And do rituals every new and full moon is one of the things on my list. So this year has been the first year that I've really like focused and like knew when the full and the new moon was. I'm very new to my journey, and it I don't know, it changed things for me. I've always felt connected to the moon, but to know like why I feel a certain way because of the moon or whatever has been really helpful to me. And I love like honoring the moon and going out and really looking at the moon. And because I will be in like nature, I'll be able to really like I want to do like full on like rituals or at least like a card pull every new and full moon. Now here's where we get to the hard part. So can only buy 1 deck a month. So I'm not in any way doing a no buy year because I don't think I could do that. I've tried that in the past and it didn't work. And at that time it was like with makeup and things like that, and I just couldn't do it. But I think 1 deck a month is really good because I already have quite a bit of decks that I've bought in 1 year. Not even, but like over the past year I've bought over 100 decks. I don't even know how many I have. But I think going from over 100 decks in 1 year to 12 decks in 1 year is really good. And it's an extreme cut down, but I think it'll really help me focus on what I have because I do have so many decks. And I really need to study them and focus on the ones I already have, you know what I mean? And I also will not have as much money because I am going from 5 days a week down to 3, and we need to remodel our home. We are lucky enough that this home was in the family and it was gifted to us, but it was a fixer-upper, so we don't have a mortgage, and I'm so incredibly grateful for that. But we have a lot of renovation to do on it while we are living there. So like we have been working on it to make it livable, but when we move in there, it's still going to be rough. So a lot of our money and a lot of our time is going to be spent there. So yeah, I don't want to buy a lot of decks and spend my money in places that it doesn't need to be spent. And along with that, if things are gifted to me, that's a different story. Like I'm not going to deprive myself from buying 1 deck if somebody already gifted me a deck in the month. And then like my birthday might be like the one time I excuse buying you know, more decks. But I'm making this video to hold myself accountable in a way, but I'm not going to punish myself obviously if I don't adhere to it. But I really genuinely feel like there's no way I'm going to go away from this because I mean there's so many things that I need to focus on. And I've been having so much stress and anxiety regarding money lately, and just I know that this will help remedy that, right? So so yeah, can only buy 1 deck a month. Celebrate the sabbats. I really want to focus on the sabbats, learn, you know, celebrate the wheel of the year, because I haven't done that. This year was really about learning, and next year I really want to focus and celebrate the sabbats as a witch. So that is one thing on my depth year. Read 15 books minimum. Now, I know that sounds like a small amount, but I went from reading an insane amount of books as a kid to growing up, getting out into the real world, having to work on my own, and I was going to school, and I just didn't read anymore, and it's very sad. And this year I only read a few books, and it already like changed things for me. I mean, I've read a lot of tarot books and a lot of like learning books this year, but I also read a few just entertaining books, and it was magical. And I really want to get more into like a less technology-based lifestyle. I really want to read more. And so I put 15 books as like a starting point, because I know for some that doesn't sound like a lot, but for me that is going to be a lot, because I went from nothing to reading 15 books. So that is my minimum. I am going to meet that. 15 is my minimum that I have to meet next year. So I have Narnia that I really want to read. I mean, I've never read all of the books in full, and I actually have the full, like, it's like a huge thick book of all of the stories in one. So I'm going to read that next year, and then I want to finish my Caraval series, and I'll add to this list as I figure out things I want to read. And I put a little note here, start with books I have. So I have quite a few books that I've never read because my mother-in-law gave them to me as, just gave them to me and I haven't got around to reading them. I have books that I've just had for years. So I'm going to start with the ones I have, and then from there I will buy a few books here and there. And I'm going to try to be as money conscious with that as I can be. I know Barnes & Noble always has like a bunch of sales, and I have their membership card because I was buying so many decks. But I really want to focus more on like the book part this year. Then I have to spend more time outside, which I think will be easy for me because I'll be in nature. And then my last one that I have is work with my moon cycles. So I really want to connect with the divine feminine part of myself. There's a deck coming out in January, which I think will be the deck I purchased in January, and it's called Sacred Cycles, and it's by Jill Pyle, who made the Sacred Self-Care Oracle. And I'm going to purchase that deck. That's like on my list because I wanted to work with my moon cycles already, work with my period and that time, and really like embrace it. And so working with that deck, I think, will help me do that every month. So it just was like perfect timing that deck is coming out in January. So that's going to be my January deck that I purchased to help me do that. So yeah, I think this is a good start. It seems kind of like a big list, but it's really not. I wanted to keep it short so that I could really focus on these things and not feel overwhelmed. And I don't feel overwhelmed looking at this list. It feels very doable for me, especially with all the time I'll have. And at the end of the year, we can look at this together and see like what I accomplished, what I didn't, extra things maybe that I did that weren't on the list. So I'm very excited to be able to come back next year at the end of the year and talk about that and kind of see if I want to do another depth year or another year where I'm really like focusing on that. Because that's kind of like the lifestyle I want to live now, is like a depth lifestyle. So I hope that this video wasn't too incredibly long. It's probably like, yeah, 45 minutes. Okay, I can do that. So I hope that you enjoyed sitting down and chatting with me. If you guys are doing a depth year kind of situation in 2022, let me know. But yeah, I don't know. I do have a few videos that are already filmed. I have some readings. I have my tarot deck collection. My oracle deck collection is probably not going to be filmed until after I move because I don't have the time. Half my house is packed right now, so the videos might be a little bit weird until after the new year. So just a little heads up there. But yeah, I really want to start that new routine as soon as we get into January so I can talk about the deck I purchased, talk about working with it, all of that. So yeah, I'm gonna get off now because I have to go to the bathroom and I've been talking for an hour. So I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.